So Alex Bregman's tenure with the Houston Astros is officially over. He didn't go back to Houston. He didn't sign with the Detroit Tigers like a lot of us thought he was going to. He didn't go to the Chicago Cubs, which would have been a really good fit. He is a Boston Red Sox, and he signed with Boston for 3 years, $120 million, which is a $40 million AAV, which is really high, a lot higher than I would have ever thought Alex Bregman would have gotten. He has a couple of opt-outs. He didn't get that 6 years over, or he didn't get that $200 million over 6 years that he wanted, but this is still a really good deal for him. He has a couple opt-outs, and I think this is a pretty good deal for the Boston Red Sox as well. I mean, it is a lot of money, but it is over just 3 years. It's over 3 years, and I think this really cements like a really, really good offseason for Boston. I think this makes them one of the better teams, if not one of the best teams in the American League, and I think they are only second to the Yankees in the AL East, and I think there's an argument to be had where they could be the best team in the American League East. But let's check out the lineup. I mean, this makes them really, really deep. I mean, you got Jarren Duran leading off. He had an MVP caliber type of year in 2024. Rafi Devers, all he does is mash. Alex Bregman, you're gonna have him at second base. I forgot to mention that he is expected to play second base, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. You got Tristan Casas, who is a very, very big power threat. He didn't play a whole lot last year, but when he did play, he was really, really good. He's still young. He still can improve quite a bit. You got Masataka Yoshida DHing, which he's been really good for the past 2 years. Horrible in the field. That's why he's a DH. You got Trevor Story listed at 6 at shortstop, but I mean, what are we going to get with Trevor Story? He didn't play more than 40 games, 30 games even last year. And when's the last time he put up 80 games where he played half the season? I think it's been since his Colorado days. So what are we going to get with Trevor Story? Wilyer Abreu over in right field. He had a solid rookie year last year. He's a solid player. Connor Wong also had a solid year. And Ceddanne Rafaela, he shows promise. He can play a little bit everywhere. He's listed as a center fielder. He can play shortstop. So if Trevor Story inevitably goes down with an injury, he's also getting a little bit older. Ceddanne can play shortstop. You have Roman Anthony, who's one of the best prospects in baseball. He takes over. I mean, that's a little bit of depth. Not to mention, you go out and you trade for one of the best starting pitchers in baseball, one of the best lefties in the game, Garrett Crochet. And I know it was weird. It was a little bit interesting how they talked about trading him last year, but he said that he wouldn't go anywhere, or he wouldn't throw a single pitch in the playoffs if he wasn't extended upon arrival, which is very, very interesting. Are the Red Sox going to work out an extension for Garrett Crochet this year? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. He's their ace. He's going to be very, very good. You got Tanner Houck at number 2, who had a very, very strong season last year. That's a really, really solid 1-2 punch. You got Brian Bayo, who had kind of a disappointing year compared to what you were hoping for last year. Let's hope that he can kind of come in and have a better year, improve. He's still young. He's gonna be 26 this year. That's pretty young for a starting pitcher. You also brought in Walker Buehler on a 1-year deal, I believe, who is coming off a really, really poor year, but that was after coming off Tommy John surgery, and he's been elite. He's been an ace level pitcher before that. So if he comes in and just is a solid guy, a solid arm, he's not going to have to be the dude. He's listed as their number 4 right now, but he wants to be good. He wants to return to his former dominant self. You also have Lucas Giolito, number 5 pitcher, or listed as number 5 on Fangraphs right now. But I think a lot of us kind of forgot that he was there. The Red Sox signed him prior to the start of 2024. He immediately has to have Tommy John surgery. Very, very unfortunate, but he's listed as their number 5. He's going to return at some point this year. I don't know if he's going to be ready opening day, but that's going to be really interesting to see how those two pitchers handle this year. Because if you would have told us 3 years ago or so, if someone were to tell me 3 years ago that the Red Sox back end of the rotation, number 4 and 5, were going to be Walker Buehler and Lucas Giolito, I would have said, who in the hell are the top 3? in that rotation, because at the time, those guys looked like they could be ace level pitchers at some point in their careers. Now it's a little bit of a question mark. I hope they return to form. I really, really do. Would love to see success from Walker Buehler and Lucas Giolito. You also have Cutter Crawford at the number 6. He might be a long relief option. He might be some depth. He's probably going to start out in the rotation if Lucas Giolito is still recovering a little bit from Tommy John surgery. He also brought in Aroldis Chapman, who I'm not a fan of personally for obvious reasons, but he's been one of the most prolific bullpen arms we've seen in the last decade. What does he have left in the tank? I imagine quite a bit, because we asked the same question last year. He's still pumping like 103 mile an hour consistently. I think did he throw a pitch 105 last year? If he did, that's pretty insane. He's 37 years old. You also have Liam Hendricks on the mend. He's due to be back at some point this year. I think a lot of people forgot about him, but he's been one of the most dominant arms in baseball over the last 5 years when he's been on the mound. So that's a pretty solid back end of the bullpen. You also have Garrett Whitlock, Justin Slayton, Greg Weissert, who all had really, really solid years in the pen. Justin Wilson, Josh Winkowski, pretty decent innings eater. At least Josh Winkowski, he had a pretty decent year last year. Justin Wilson, he's getting up there in age. He's going to be 38 at some point this year, but you're going to need guys to eat innings, even in losses. Those innings are still going to have to be pitched. So maybe Justin Wilson can just give you some innings here and there. Same with Josh Winkowski. They also brought in Patrick Sandoval, who I think it was early in December they brought him in, or they claimed him off waivers. Tell me if I'm wrong. I thought it was a free agency pickup sort of situation, or was it a trade? I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. Now that I think about it, I think it was a trade. But anyway, he had Tommy John surgery last year. It wasn't the full Tommy John, but the internal brace. So he might be back at the end of last year. He will give them some depth, because what good team doesn't have depth? But overall, I think this is a really, really good roster, and that's not to mention what their farm systems look like. They have the number 1 prospect in baseball in Roman Anthony, who I talked about a little bit earlier. I know it says number 2 right there. Notice the name before him, Roki Sasaki. I'm not counting him, because I think we all know that Roki Sasaki is already very, very experienced at a professional level, and he's probably going to finish in the top 5, maybe top 3 Cy Young voting this year. If I were to guess, I think a top 5 is a pretty tame like prediction. I think he's probably going to win Rookie of the Year in the National League, of course. But anyway, this is not about Roki Sasaki. You have Roman Anthony at number 2 according to MLB.com. Christian Campbell over at second base, shortstop, outfield. He can play pretty much all over the place. Number 7. Marcelo Mayer, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, number 12. So they have 3 of the top 12 prospects according to MLB.com, and there's probably 1 or 2 more that I'm missing. But as we scroll down, I'm not finding any. I think they traded away a good chunk of them to the White Sox in the deal for Garrett Crochet, Kyle Teal, Braden Montgomery. I'm missing someone else off the top of my head, but I think this is a really, really, really strong team. And I was talking about earlier, Rafael Devers at third base. He was actually being interviewed today about potentially moving over to the DH spot since Alex Bregman has been brought in, and he said no, third base is basically mine. So it doesn't look like he wants to DH whatsoever. Who knows what's gonna happen with that in the future? Right now he's gonna be the opening day third baseman, but I mean, I really would like to see Alex Bregman over there at some point, because he is obviously the better defender. Maybe move Rafi to first base, maybe move him to the DH. And if you do move him to the DH, that makes either Tristan Casas or Masataka Yoshida a little bit expendable, because you can't play everyone and you can't hit everyone, and Masataka Yoshida is not good in the field. Neither is Rafi Devers. So maybe I think they've been trying to get rid of Masataka Yoshida for the last couple, or this offseason, I should say. But who knows what will happen with that? It may not even be a thing by the time the middle of the season rolls around. This is probably not going to be a big deal. But anyway, I do think this is a really strong team, one of the better teams in the AL, if not one of the best, and probably second to the Yankees in the AL East, if not tied for the #1 spot. So let me know what you think. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Peace out.